Okay, so yesterday we talked about the idea of like what is leadership? And as we saw, my kiddos had a hard time describing what it was. And then I watched other people in the comments describe things. And I had a couple of friends who called me and were like, "Hey, I saw your video and I want to tell you what I think leadership is." And with all of those things, I want to dig deeper into what leadership is because of the fact that the definition of leadership is the ability to guide and motivate people to work together towards a common goal. One of the things that I found myself talking to people about over and over again was cool. Everything you described to me could be the same for a good leader and for a bad leader. It could be a good goal, it could be a great vision, or it could be a bad goal or a bad vision. And so I started to dig deeper with people of what makes a good leader. And this comes back down to the kinds of language that we use when we are picking people to be leaders within our organization. And how do we train people that are really great at their jobs to be great leaders? Because in conversations with people, I do a lot of one on ones every single week with people that I'm networking with. And the thing that I keep seeing over and over again is I was really good at being a developer, creating this cog in this widget, being a coder in this area. And then because I was so good at my job, I was moved into a leadership position and then I was left to my own devices. I was told that I still needed to do my work over here, but then I had to lead this team of other humans and figure out how to get them motivated to do the things that they need to do and be in line with the vision of the organization. And there's not a whole lot of people within organizations that are teaching that. We elevate people because we want to give them more work or more status or whatever it is for that specific business. And then we leave them hanging. So when we think about leadership, we have to understand this first principle of what is leadership before we're able to really dig deep into how do we train our leaders well. Most people want to stop and go, well, if they would just lead better. Or as an employee, you may be saying, well, if my leader would just lead better, or they're just a bad leader. And then we correlate them not knowing how to lead with them as a person. And then we have this disconnect within our teams of somebody who's probably really good at what they do and just needs a little bit more training in what leadership is. But if the only thing that we know about leadership is that it's the ability to guide and motivate people to work together towards a common goal, we're missing this idea of leadership. So, one of the things that I heard a couple of times from people the last day and a half is leadership is when the leader is doing it with us. They understand it. They're in the battlefield with us. I got a lot of imagery of different colonels in battle who are doing the things with the people instead of just being the figurehead who's talking at them. So that was one of the pieces. And when I started to really dig into good leader versus bad leader, some of the things that people said is someone who's been someplace and they're showing you the way. So a guide or a Sherpa towards that next piece that you're trying to get to. Somebody who's already been there. Sometimes, though, people get put into leadership and they haven't been there yet. And this is when a vision comes into play. A vision for where the company's going, for where that department's going. And when we promote leaders, are we showing them the vision? Are we sharing the vision with them? And are we getting as the leaders of the business, are we pulling our leaders in and showing them what that vision is so that then they can lead their teams well? A lot of times when we're talking about an organizational structure, I'm hearing from C-suite executives who are like, well, if our other leaders, if our managers would just do a better job, when really this becomes the C-suite's responsibility to get buy-in from their leaders. So the leaders of the leaders also have to lead well in order for those other teams to lead well. So anytime that there's something falling apart or we feel like there's not that cohesion that we're looking for, then we need to say, okay, what is broken down here? What vision are we not going towards? Where is there misunderstanding here? And many companies don't stop long enough to do that. So what is that vision? Are people empathetic to who they're serving? Do they understand what it's like? If you're coming up from a position and you understand what it's like, then that's perfect. If we hire somebody in from the outside and then they're put in a leadership position, have they been there before? Do they understand what the workload is? Do they understand the processes that that specific business is going through? And if not, let's give them a chance to understand that so that when they're leading, people are not like, well, that's not how it works. You haven't been here. Because then we have a disconnect of, well, this is my space and you're now intruding on my space. And we have to consider these basic human conditions of thinking about it like siblings. If I was to say, hey, here's this new person into the mix that you have to now listen to, but they have no idea what our history is here, then that creates some breakdown within the communication. So we talked about vision, people who are taking you places, empathy, not having an ego. So being not selfish in what they're doing. So it's okay to be like, hey, this is where I want my career to go as a leader, but also saying, hey, here's how I'm helping other people be successful in the process. And this idea of they want to see other people's success. They want to see their team move forward. They want to see their team get promoted. And there is a goal for that because when it's this idea of when the tide rises, all ships rise along with it. And as a good leader, we should be looking for those moments when the tide rises. And it really came down to two different things. So obviously we've got vision, empathy, all of these pieces that we're talking about. But when we're thinking about what makes a good leader versus a bad leader, it comes down to two things. It's intention and the motivation. So what is your intention as a leader or as somebody who's trying to step into leadership? What is your motivation for what you're trying to get done and where you're trying to take your people? And if you're watching this and you're like, I really don't know, I'm trying to lead my team better, or hey, I'm trying to move into a leadership position, that's a great opportunity for us to get on the phone and talk about what it looks like to have me come in and let's train your team. Let's train leaders on how to lead themselves if they're not in a leadership position yet, so that they're ready to be promoted into leadership positions, and to train your leaders on how to lead well in order to get your organization and your people where they want to go and where you want the business to grow to. Because if we're all not bought into the vision, we're never going to get there. We're all going to just keep pushing things against the wall like we're throwing spaghetti and hoping that things will stick. That if we just keep doing the things that we're going to get to where we want to go. But if there's no clear destination, just like I said yesterday, of if we can't define the thing that we're doing, then it's hard for us to actually do said thing. And I appreciate Dan for pulling that quote out for me because of the fact that if we can't define it, just like data, if we are not paying attention to the data, we can't get to where we need to go because there's nothing to compare it against. So we just keep going in the same direction, hoping for something better, not knowing what we're going towards. So I would love to meet with you and your team. If you're like, I don't know how we could work together, but I have questions for you, send me a DM. Let's get on a call. Let's see if I can help you or if I can connect you with somebody who can help you and get you in the right direction so that you can lead well and lead with intention for your people, for yourself, and for the betterment of the organization as a whole to get to the goals that you want to get to. So I will see you next week.